Listen closely, my friend, and let these words echo in that quiet chamber where your doubts like to hide. Somewhere out there, a voice is sharpening its edges, waiting to slice into your confidence with an insult meant to break you. But before those words can wound, pause. Feel your own heartbeat answering back. That rhythm is proof you were designed for purpose, not for somebody else's small-minded definition of you. Remember the cracked pavement that once tripped you up? You're still standing. Recall the storm that soaked your dreams? You're still burning. An insult is only wind across the surface of deep water. Beneath it, your spirit is an ocean, unmoved, undeniable. So when that stinging sentence flies toward you, breathe it in like oxygen. Then exhale power. Let them see in your eyes the unshakable truth. You are bigger than any syllable they can spit. In this moment, you do not shrink, you rise. You do not rage, you reveal poise. And as you steady yourself, you'll notice something miraculous. Every jab that was meant to bruise becomes a drumbeat driving you forward. Louder, prouder, unstoppable. The moment an insult strikes the air, it's natural for your mind to lunge toward defense, to snap back with the quickest weapon it can find. Yet there is a rare power in choosing to do nothing. Feel those first 3 seconds stretch like sunrise over calm water. They belong entirely to you. Breathe once, slow and deliberate, letting the oxygen circle your ribs like a quiet anthem. While the insulter expects sparks, you hand them a mirror made of silence. They are suddenly confronted not with your outrage, but with their own echo, bouncing hollow against the walls. In that hush, you are not passive, you are sculpting the temperature of the room. You decide whether it stays ice cold or warms with possibility. Your stillness is not surrender, it is strategy. A chess player's pause before a decisive move. Around you, time seems to lean in, curious, respectful. Inside you, heartbeats settle into steadier rhythm, proving you command your inner landscape. And the person who fired those cheap words begins to taste the metallic aftershock of their own aggression, because nothing is lonelier than cruelty left unanswered, in a space suddenly stripped of applause. Silence, when worn like tailored cloth, fits the contours of dignity. It is the verbal equivalent of standing tall, shoulders open, chin lifted just enough to show you're unburdened. Think of the great rivers that carve canyons. They do not shout while shaping stone. They move with unhurried certainty, allowing gravity and time to amplify their influence. Your pause is that river, quietly rearranging the ground beneath the conversation. While the insulter fidgets for confirmation, you give none. Instead, you listen to the pulse in your fingertips, feel the floor under your feet, notice the subtle scroll of air against your skin. All these sensations remind you that your life is larger than a single jab of disrespect. They tether you to the present moment where you retain choice. Weaponized words depend on speed, shock, and spectacle. Remove one element, speed, and their voltage drops. The silence you hold is not empty, but crowded with unseen allies. Restraint, self-respect, foresight. Each second becomes a syllable of unspoken poetry that says, I recognize my worth, and I will not spend it cheaply. While you remain quiet, you're also listening, truly listening, not only to the offender, but to the landscape behind their language. You detect the tremor of insecurity disguised as arrogance, the plea for relevance masked as mockery. Silence is your microscope, it magnifies motive. With that knowledge, you reclaim authorship of the narrative. Rather than starring in their drama, you observe it like a calm director in the editing room, deciding what stays on the cutting floor. A gentle inhale gathers perspective. Maybe their insult was born from a sleepless night, a financial strain, a bruised ego seeking anesthesia. Understanding doesn't excuse, yet it liberates you from the quicksand of personal offense. The pause becomes compassion's workshop, forging empathy alongside boundaries. You realize you need not swallow the venom when you can examine the fang that delivered it. Your silence therefore transmutes from shield to lantern, illuminating both the wound that prompted the insult and the door out of reactionary darkness. The insulter might sense this quiet penetration of their facade and, for a fleeting second, confront the mirror of their own pain. Within that quiet interval, you invite your higher self to the table. Picture the wisest version of you, older, seasoned by storms, radiant with perspective, leaning forward to whisper counsel. They remind you that dignity thrives on patience and that hurried words often age poorly in memory's courtroom. The pause grants access to a private boardroom where your values convene. Integrity votes against retaliation, grace suggests a measured reply, and confidence seconds the motion. You observe these internal proceedings with respectful distance, allowing a unified decision to surface. The gift of time avoids the regret of impulsive speech, the kind that tastes sour upon reflection. Instead, you're crafting a response that feels like it was written on good parchment, not scribbled on a tear-stained napkin. Silence is the incubation chamber where such responses hatch fully feathered, ready to fly without apology. And when you finally open your mouth, if you do, the words will land softly yet firmly, bearing the unmistakable weight of self-mastery. The insulter may not applaud, but witnesses will recognize the quiet symphony of someone who values precision over volume. Pausing also recalibrates the emotional thermostat inside your body. Insults trigger primal circuitry, fight, flight, or freeze, but silence is your manual override. As you refuse the bait, cortisol has less reason to flood your veins. Adrenaline retreats from its battle stations. You exhale the tightness in your chest, unclench the jaw that wanted to grind sparks. This physiological reset is no small victory. It guards your health, your clarity, your night's sleep. In that stillness, you can even detect your own heartbeat slowing, each thump a drum of resilience. People around you may misinterpret the calm as weakness, unaware that tranquility often requires more muscle than fury. You are performing an internal martial art, redirecting the force of hostility so it dissolves rather than detonates. Later, when you review the encounter, you'll recall not a blur of red, but a portrait framed by composure. That memory becomes a reference point, proof that you can choose this path again. It's training, repetition, mastery. Silence, therefore, is not mere absence of noise. It's the presence of powerful self-regulation echoing through every cell. There is theatrical genius in a pause. On stage, an actor holds a beat before delivering a pivotal line, and the audience leans so far forward they nearly tip from their seats. In life, your silence performs the same alchemy. Conversation is theater. Timing is everything. The insulter expected an immediate line of dialogue, a predictable script of hurt and counter-hurt. By withholding your cue, you become the director who rewrites the scene in real time. The spotlight shifts from you to them. Their words hang awkwardly in midair, searching for a foothold that isn't offered. They may stammer, laugh to fill the void, or escalate their pitch in hopes of reeling you back into the drama. Yet you remain a still mountain against which their echoes dissipate. Observers witness the imbalance and often reassess their judgments. Some may even side with you silently, admiring the poise that transformed a potential argument into a masterclass in restraint. In this unscripted theater, silence becomes your signature performance, and its reviews linger far longer than a shouted retort ever could. Silence also buys you leverage. Negotiators know the value of deliberate quiet. It encourages the other party to reveal more than intended. In social conflict, your pause may coax the insulter to elaborate, exposing contradictions or childishness within their stance. They might attempt humor to soften the blow, unintentionally admitting insecurity. Each additional word they provide is a chess piece moved without forcing your hand. You gain information while conserving emotional energy, and information is power. It guides your eventual response, if any, toward precision rather than guesswork. The stillness you maintain is therefore not passive. It is investigative journalism. You're gathering data, mapping terrain, preparing the most efficient path forward. Meanwhile, your silence signals self-control, a trait many aspire to but few display under fire. That gap between provocation and reaction is where wisdom sets up camp, pitching its tent on the fertile ground of careful observation. The moment stretches, and with it your horizon of options expands from reactive to strategic, from defensive to transformative. Consider too the education your silence provides to onlookers, children, colleagues, friends, who absorb conflict management lessons in real time. Your restraint becomes a living syllabus on emotional intelligence. They watch you transform insult into quiet confidence and realize that strength need not roar to be recognized. This demonstration might plant a seed in someone's heart, a future moment where they too will choose silence over chaos because they remembered your example. Legacy isn't always built on grand speeches. Sometimes it is forged in eloquent pauses. By mastering the art of silence, you are not only defending your own dignity, but mentoring others in the craft of self-respect. Imagine the ripple. One measured pause today could echo in countless future interactions you will never witness. The insulter aimed to diminish you, yet your response, or lack thereof, amplifies your influence beyond that moment. Thus, silence becomes a philanthropist, donating composure to a world overdosed on reaction. There is also a sacredness to silence many have forgotten. Spiritual traditions across cultures celebrate quiet as a gateway to deeper wisdom. By pausing after an insult, you step into that timeless sanctuary where intuition speaks in whispers. In the stillness, you may hear guidance that transcends clever comebacks. Perhaps a reminder to set firmer boundaries, or a nudge to offer unexpected kindness that dissolves hostility like salt in water. These insights are delicate. They cannot be caught in the turbulence of immediate retaliation. You invite them only by calming the surface of your mind until reflection is possible. The pause is both doorway and welcome mat, signaling to higher understanding that it is safe to enter. When it does, you emerge from silence not only unscathed but enlightened. Having mined the confrontation for gold invisible to hurried eyes, such moments accumulate, gradually crafting within you a reservoir of serenity that no insult, however vicious, can poison. Finally, treat silence as rehearsal for mastery yet to come. Each instance you withhold a reactive word is a rep in the gym of self-command. Over time, your tolerance for disdain strengthens like muscle under progressive load. The world will not run out of rude voices. They are abundant as rain. But your capacity to remain unmoved can grow until insults glance off you like pebbles against armor. This isn't indifference. It is deliberate sovereignty. You no longer lease your mood to strangers' opinions. Instead, you invest attention where it yields returns. Growth, creativity, relationships rooted in respect. The pause you practice today is a brick in the cathedral of character you are building for a lifetime. And when storms rage, and they will, you will stand within that structure, listening to the thunder with a quiet smile, knowing it cannot touch the walls you raised. One purposeful silence at a time. Identity is the compass you carry when other people try to spin you in circles. It is the steady north that refuses to move even when the map is torn. The instant someone's insult flares across your sky, you anchor in that compass and feel its pull beneath the chaos. Close your eyes for half a heartbeat, long enough to remember one unshakable truth about who you are. Maybe it is the memory of staying up through the night to finish schoolwork when everyone else quit, or the laughter you spark in a grieving friend, or the promise you made to a younger version of yourself to stand taller than circumstance. That recollection becomes a knot you tie around your spirit. A knot that will not slip, no matter how hard resentment tugs. While the insult tries to make you small, the memory enlarges you from the inside, stretching your sense of worth until the cheap words cannot fit around you. You become the storyteller, reclaiming the narrative from the heckler. In that moment, the floor beneath you stiffens, fixing your stance. The air behind your ribs expands, giving your voice a richer timbre should you choose to use it. Anchoring in identity begins long before the confrontation, in quiet hours when nobody is watching. It is built from repeated acts of integrity, holding promises to yourself, nurturing skills, honoring boundaries. Each act lays another brick in a fortress where your confidence can sleep safely. So when the insult finally arrives, it does not find you camping in open fields. It finds you standing behind walls you spent years constructing. You need not scramble to assemble self-esteem on the spot, because you stocked these armories long ago. The certificates you earned, the friendships you sustained, the hardships you survived without surrendering your kindness. These artifacts of your journey are not mere memories. They are evidence, irrefutable in the court of inner truth. As the insulter waves flimsy accusations, you quietly review the exhibits of your perseverance. You recall nights when fear hissed louder than any critic, yet you persisted. That recollection is oxygen to the flame of self-belief. The more clearly you see your track record of resilience, the smaller another person's verdict appears against the horizon of your life. Identity is also the sum of your values, those invisible guides that direct your choices like constellations steering sailors. An insult often tries to hijack value, labeling you lazy, unworthy, naive. But you already chose your own labels: honest, diligent, compassionate, courageous. You don't wear them like fragile stickers, you tattoo them on the inside where no storm can peel them away. When an insulter names you something vile, you hold their word beside your internal creed and note the mismatch. The discrepancy dissolves the accusation's power. It cannot cling because it cannot correspond. You might even whisper silently, "That's not my name," and feel the words lock like a door against intrusive noise. Your chosen values then dictate your response. You will answer with dignity, because dignity is who you are, not because it is strategically clever. This alignment between value and action produces a grounded serenity others can feel. They sense you are driven by an inner engine, not propelled by external gusts. And those watching the exchange may discover their own longing for such an engine, such an unambiguous sense of self. Anchoring in identity also means recognizing that worth is not a popularity contest. The crowd's applause has peaks and droughts, but intrinsic value is perennial. Imagine your life as a stock whose true market price is calculated not by daily traders, but by the steady accrual of fundamentals: character, skill, kindness. When someone hurls an insult, they're effectively short-selling your worth, wagering that you'll panic and dump shares of self-confidence at a loss. Refuse the transaction. Hold your stock. Remember the intrinsic metrics: the patience you showed mentoring a stranger, the discipline behind your craft, the empathy that colored your decisions. These qualities appreciate quietly in the background, ignored by those chasing quick drama. Anchored to them, you can watch an insult's market dip with curiosity rather than alarm. Eventually, the true price reasserts itself, and those who bet against your value fade into the margins. Their hostility becomes a footnote in the quarterly report of your ongoing growth. Meanwhile, you keep investing in yourself, confident that long-term valuation cannot be gamed by drive-by opinions. That anchor does not deny pain, it distributes it. Insults can still sting, but identity prevents the sting from reaching vital organs. It's the difference between rain on a roof and water through a broken ceiling. You feel the patter, acknowledge the inconvenience, yet your inner furniture stays dry. How? by quickly routing the insult to a reality check. Does this criticism align with who I know myself to be? If yes, perhaps it is feedback to consider. If no, it is weather. Temporary, external, not worth structural panic. Even valid critique, when filtered through identity, is processed constructively. You separate behavior modifiable from self, inherent. Thus, blame becomes blueprint. You adjust actions without auctioning off your core. The anchor lets you treat errors as chapters, not verdicts, and treat cruelty as someone else's autobiography, not yours. Your sense of self remains the publisher deciding which manuscripts see daylight. Others may submit harsh drafts about you, but their submissions require your approval to become canon. Anchoring ensures you reserve that editorial right. At times, the anchor glows brightest in solitude, when echoes of others' voices fade and only your own heartbeat drums. After a painful exchange, you might retreat to a quiet space, bedroom, balcony, prayer mat, and breathe into your center. There you repeat affirmations not as fluffy slogans, but as factual statements. I have breathed through heartbreak. I have built from scratch. I have loved without return and still loved again. Each sentence is a weight tied to the anchor, sinking it deeper into bedrock. You visualize roots burrowing downward while your chest rises upward, forming a stable trunk between earth and sky. The next time arrows fly, they lodge in bark thickened by self-reflection. You may still bleed sap, but the tree lives, grows. And because you practiced anchoring, you can extend that shade even to the insulter, offering a cool humility they might one day appreciate when their own storms come. Identity finds reinforcement in community too. Surround yourself with people who reflect your truest attributes. A mentor who names your potential before you do. A sibling who laughs at your worst joke because they love the sound of your excitement. A friend who challenges you to level up rather than level down. Their echoes become part of your internal chorus, harmonizing with your self-belief when discordant insults try to drown it out. Yet anchoring means you cherish their encouragement without becoming dependent on it. They are lighthouses, not lifeboats. You steer your own vessel. They merely confirm you're on course when fog sets in. Should an insulter scoff, nobody thinks highly of you. Your memory surveys the shoreline studded with lights of those who actually know you. With that confirmation, the stranger's comment reads like a forged signature. Obvious fake, discarded without angst. The anchor rests not on external approval, but friendly proof helps fortify its chain. Anchoring in identity also equips you to respond, if you choose, with elegance rather than ego. Knowing who you are frees you from proving it on demand. When provoked, you can ask yourself, would a person defined by patience or courage or faith react with this retort I'm composing? If the answer is no, you delete the draft inside your throat. You opt for words or silence that harmonize with your self-portrait. This inner alignment produces outward coherence. Posture, tone, and message match the moral architecture inside. Spectators may not articulate it, but they sense integrity when they witness it. Conversely, when someone insults from insecurity, their dissonance is palpable. Voice strained, eyes flickering, your steadiness highlights their tremor. And sometimes seeing their own discord in the mirror of your composure nudges them toward introspection. The anchor thus serves both you and potentially them, offering a quiet invitation to find their own North Star rather than lashing out at yours. Anchoring is a daily discipline, not a one-time revelation. Each morning you secure the chain again through rituals, journaling, gratitude, repeating purpose, practicing competence. You update the map of self the way sailors mark charts, noting shifting sandbars of weakness, new islands of skill. When insults come, you consult an up-to-date atlas, not a faded parchment. If the critic accurately points to a reef you ignored, you thank them and adjust course. Identity is dynamic, but its core remains constant, a commitment to growth rooted in immutable worth. This perspective transforms insults from threats into potential data, sometimes false, sometimes valuable. Your anchor lets you sort gold from gravel without fear of capsizing. Over decades, these small calibrations, guided by identity, multiply into a life trajectory, increasingly immune to stray storms. You navigate by an internal constellation, polished daily until it shines bright enough to light your path and subtle enough not to blind your humility. Finally, anchoring in identity allows you to love boldly. When insults no longer dictate your mood, you free emotional bandwidth for empathy, creativity, service. You step into rooms willing to risk misunderstanding because misunderstanding cannot unmake you. You volunteer ideas, extend kindness, pursue dreams, knowing criticism may trail. But so what? Your anchor rests deep, ropes taut. The vessel can venture far. The world feels bigger because fear has shrunk. You realize that anchoring was never just self-defense, it was self-permission to speak truth, to chase excellence, to stand for justice, to forgive yourself. And every time an insult tries to cut that permission slip, you feel the tug on the chain, smile, and sail on, carrying within you a compass no storm can steal. Questions are bridges that lead an insult away from the battlefield and into neutral ground where you control the terrain. When someone fires a sharp remark, most people either strike back or retreat, but you become the architect of inquiry. Instead of letting their words burrow under your skin, you tilt your head and ask, softly but unmistakably, what makes you say that? Notice how the air changes. Their offensive arrow expecting a target now finds itself suspended in mid-flight, examined under a brighter light. A sincere question flips the power dynamic. It moves the spotlight from your character to their motivation, from your supposed flaw to the reasoning, or lack of it, behind their comment. You are not dodging, you're directing. And in that redirection, you remain calm, collected, even curious. Curiosity is armor no insult can puncture, because it treats hostility as a riddle rather than a verdict. The moment you ask, you grow larger than the accusation, expanding from a defensive stance to an investigative one. It's like turning the tide of a river. The current that was racing toward you now swirls around them, asking them to account for its origin. That first question serves another purpose. It buys you priceless seconds. While they scramble for an answer, you breathe, assess, and settle the rhythm of your heartbeat. You regain strategic upper ground without ever raising your voice. Questions pace the conversation like a metronome, slowing the tempo to something you can dance to rather than be dragged by. Each beat of silence between question and response is a window where you observe body language, vocal tremor, eye movement. You read the unspoken subtext. Is this insult born from jealousy, frustration, ignorance? Meanwhile, your own composure thickens like cooling steel. The insulter senses the shift. Your calm interrogative stance invites them to reconsider the shaky scaffolding of their attack. They expected combat, got conversation, and conversation demands coherence. Should they supply none, the hollowness of the insult becomes self-evident, not because you declared it so, but because their answers reveal the emptiness in real time. It's Socrates in street clothes, truth teased out by inquiry. Questions are in essence spotlights that travel with precision. You swing that beam towards specifics. Can you explain what you mean by lazy? The vague poison has nowhere to hide. Forced into detail, many insults collapse. Accusers realize they have grabbed generalities without substance. If they attempt particulars, you continue. Which instance are you referring to? The deeper they dig, the more they expose the roots. Often brittle, sometimes imaginary. Even if they unearth a genuine misstep, your question has earned you clarity, and clarity empowers correction. The process strips fear from feedback. It transforms thunder into rainfall, still wet, but manageable. You become a kind of gentle prosecutor, separating fact from feeling, discovering whether the barb was critique disguised as cruelty or simply cruelty in disguise. In either case, you remain in charge because you chose the vector of the dialogue. The insult, once a blunt club, becomes a scalpel in your measured hands. Asking questions can also awaken empathy in the aggressor. A question like, "Are you okay?" That sounded harsh. "Anything on your mind?" lands like cool water on hot coals. It suggests they might be bleeding somewhere beneath the bravado. Sometimes hostility is just pain wearing steel-toed boots. By inviting them to speak their hurt rather than hurl it, you shift the energy from confrontation to confession. The insult sting diminishes as the human story emerges. Perhaps they felt overlooked, threatened, or stressed, and their words were a flare gun, not a bullet. Your question unlocks that possibility. It does not excuse the behavior, but explains it, turning enemy into fellow struggler. In the process, you protect your equilibrium, because empathy neutralizes resentment like alkali neutralizes acid. The dialogue you cultivate may even redirect them toward introspection, a path they seldom tread. And if they decline the invitation, that refusal is information too. Proof you sought peace before distance. Redirection through questions is not about trapping anyone, it's about illuminating choice points. When you ask, "Help me understand, what outcome were you hoping for by saying that?" you press pause on the emotional autoplay and invite conscious thought. They must consider intent, weigh words, and confront responsibility. Many have never been asked to justify their rhetoric and will falter under the honest weight of accountability. Some will retract, others will clarify, a few might double down. Whatever they choose, you have elevated the encounter from reflexive to reflective. Your question is a ladder out of the mud. Whether they climb it is up to them. Meanwhile, you've kept your own clothes clean. You refuse to wrestle in muck and instead offer dialogue on dry ground. Proof that self-respect can lead and not just defend. Remember, the tone of your questioning is as vital as the content. Let your voice ride on a calm, even wave. Pitch and pace like a friendly mediator, not a cross-examination. A question delivered with contempt is merely a disguised accusation. A question delivered with genuine curiosity is a key. Keys open rooms. Accusations slam doors. Practice that tone in ordinary moments. Ask cashiers how their day is going. Friends why they love a song. children what they dream about. These small exercises condition your vocal cords and facial muscles to pair inquiry with warmth. Then, when an insult arrives, your practiced demeanor emerges automatically, smoothing edges where sparks could fly. The contrast between their spike and your softness can be disarming, sometimes even embarrassing for them, in a way that invites change rather than shame. Tone converts questions from weapons into invitations. Questions also guard your dignity by avoiding the petty. An insult often tempts us into a duel where no one wins. By steering the exchange with inquiry, you sidestep sarcastic traps. You never say, "Oh yeah? Well, you're worse." Because questions reveal more than accusations ever could. They demonstrate emotional sophistication, showing anyone watching that you operate on a higher frequency. Colleagues, classmates, or strangers note the maturity, and your credibility rises. Leadership is visible in such moments, the ability to maintain direction under fire. You offer a mini clinic in conflict navigation, and people remember. They may later consult you for advice, strengthening your network, all because you asked instead of attacked. Thus, one insult inadvertently becomes brand building, proof of poise. Strategic questioning also filters feedback worth keeping. Not every insult is baseless. Sometimes there's a grain of truth buried beneath malice. By asking, "Is there something specific I did that bothered you?" you shake the pan and separate gold from gravel. If authentic critique surfaces, you pocket it for self-improvement. If nothing valuable appears, you discard the sediment. Either way, you emerge wiser. Questions transform the hurtful into the helpful or the harmless. They practice intellectual judo, using the opponent's force to pivot into advantage. What was meant to diminish instead refines, sharpening your awareness of blind spots or confirming your path's integrity. You become an alchemist, turning potential poison into either medicine or vapor. Sometimes, the right question ends the exchange altogether. A calm, "Do you really believe that about me?" presents a mirror so stark that the aggressor may shrink from their own reflection. Or try, "Is this conversation leading us anywhere productive?" If they reply no, you've gained permission to disengage without guilt. If yes, you then request specifics. "Great, how can we make it constructive?" Many bullies are unprepared for constructive. The theatrical prop of insult falls useless when asked to do real work. In failing to specify, they expose the hollowness of their stance. You, in turn, step away, knowing the dialogue reached its logical end. Your integrity intact, their hostility diffused into thin air. Finally, redirecting with questions trains your mind to default to curiosity, a state incompatible with paranoia. Curiosity places you in the present, analyzing data instead of rehearsing revenge. Over time, this habit bleeds into every facet of life, improving relationships, learning, and leadership. You become a person who seeks to understand rather than dominate, and that shift magnetizes trust. The world begins to offer answers because you consistently provide questions shaped by respect. Insults still arrive, life guarantees that, but they are greeted not by a fortress bristling with cannons, nor by an exposed heart trembling, but by an open gate leading to a well-lit courtyard where dialogue, accountability, and growth are invited to sit. In that space, you remain sovereign, turning conflict into conversation, conversation into clarity, and clarity into a force that propels everyone willing toward a higher version of themselves. Your body is the stage on which your spirit performs, and posture is its opening act, speaking before any word escapes your lips. The instant an insult lands, gravity tries to pull you inward, curling shoulders, bowing head, shrinking presence. Resist that summons to smallness. Instead, plant both feet hip-width apart and imagine roots spiraling into the earth, drinking steadiness from centuries of stone. Let your spine rise like a flagpole, vertebrae stacking one by one, each click a statement of worth. Roll your shoulders back, freeing your chest to expand, not as a boast, but as a declaration that your heart still has room to breathe. Lift your chin until your gaze meets the horizon where possibility waits. Feel how the simple act of straightening elongates every vowel of your existence, turning you from question mark to exclamation. The insult may echo, but it now ricochets off architecture built for endurance. In that first upright breath, you send your nervous system a memo. We are safe, we are strong, we stay open. Adrenaline, once poised to flood, receives a measured command. Cortisol loosens its grip. You're not just standing taller, you are rewriting the body's emergency script. This upward adjustment does more than steady nerves. It broadcasts silent signals to everyone nearby, including the person who tried to diminish you. Humans read posture faster than dialogue. They witness confidence in the angles of clavicle and jawline before ears process language. When you occupy space fully, onlookers intuit hierarchy shifting. The would-be aggressor appears smaller beside your effortless vertical line. It is not intimidation, but invitation, inviting respect by modeling self-respect. Your height in that moment isn't about inches measured on a wall, it's about presence measured in gravity. Even seated, you can extend the spine, align head with pelvis, and let arms rest openly rather than folded defensively. The insult that hoped to collapse you meets a scaffold instead. Without uttering a single comeback, you've answered, "I will not hunch beneath your words." That visual reply is often stronger than any syllable, etching itself into the room's collective memory. People may forget the insult's phrasing, but they'll remember how you rose. Standing taller also hacks the chemistry of confidence. Research on power poses, though debated in academic circles, reveals a consistent anecdotal truth. Posture influences mindset. Straighten up, and you naturally inhale deeper, delivering oxygen that sharpens cognition. Muscles unwind, freeing blood flow. The brain interprets these shifts as signals of capability. Thoughts you couldn't find while slumped now surface like fish to calm water. Strategic solutions, witty retorts, or compassionate replies all swim within reach of a posture-primed mind. Conversely, when shoulders cave, lungs compress, and creativity starves. By elevating your frame, you upgrade mental software in real time, enabling you to navigate the confrontation with poise. The insulter may still hover, but their dominance dwindles as your neurotransmitters switch from threat response to executive function. You become the chess player who suddenly sees 3 moves ahead simply because the board is no longer viewed through a downward tilt. Holding yourself tall is also an act of historical remembrance. Your posture carries stories of ancestors who survived storms, wars, migrations. Picture their spines bearing burdens so you can inherit freedom. To slouch under a stray insult is to forget that lineage of resilience. When you straighten, you honor everyone who stood before you. Those who had every reason to collapse but chose vertical defiance. Feel that lineage rise like a column through your bones. It is cultural, familial, spiritual reinforcement. The insult now seems thin against the backdrop of generations whispering, "We endured worse and still walk proud." Each inch you lift is a tribute, a quiet anthem echoing through time. The aggressor hears none of this, but somehow senses weight beyond your own years, as if an unseen crowd stands with you. And perhaps they do, archived in posture, translated into presence. This physical stance becomes practice for emotional alignment. As you lift the body, notice how feelings follow posture's lead, like iron filings arranging themselves to a magnetic field. A raised head begets raised hope. Open shoulders invite open-mindedness. Even if the insult wounded, height grants perspective, allowing you to observe pain rather than drown in it. You can address the sting with measured care precisely because it no longer encompasses your entire field of vision. From this altitude, you see options: dialogue, disengagement, forgiveness. Slouching limits choices to fight or flight. Standing taller adds nuance. Approach, inquire, transform. It's not denial of hurt, it is elevation of self beyond hurt's perimeter. Posture becomes philosophy made flesh. I acknowledge the blow, yet I remain more than the bruise. Make standing tall a ritual beyond conflict so it becomes reflex within it. Practice while waiting for elevators, brushing teeth, scrolling phones. Place stickers on door frames reminding you to roll shoulders back. Engage core muscles as you walk. Each step a vote for dignity. Over time, good posture weaves into muscle memory, ready to assert itself the moment hostility appears. You won't have to think, straighten up under pressure. Your body will auto-deploy the stance of sovereignty. It's like rehearsing fire drill routes until the day flames lick corridors. You exit calmly because the path is ingrained. Similarly, your practiced verticality will guide you out of emotional blaze with minimal smoke inhalation. The insulter's surprise will be genuine. Why didn't their spark ignite you? They underestimated rehearsal's power. Standing taller literally changes the acoustics of your voice. With an open chest and aligned throat, resonance deepens, projection smooths. Should you choose to respond, your words emerge from a fuller chamber, landing with rich clarity rather than strained sharpness. A grounded voice commands attention without shouting, signaling balanced authority. Receive your viewpoint, untainted by tremor. The insulter may find their own voice quivering in contrast, revealing insecurity behind aggression. Your physical stance thus supports verbal precision, allowing content to carry weight unhindered by faltering delivery. Communication evolves from dual to dialogue because posture prepared the instrument, your body, for articulate music rather than discordant noise. In some scenarios, standing tall is your entire response. Silence fills the rest. There's power in merely adjusting posture after an insult, then returning to your task unfazed. It conveys that their comment rated so low on your scale of significance that it could not bend a single vertebra. The aggressor watches gravity fail to claim you and must confront their own motives suspended in awkward air. In workplaces, classrooms, or family gatherings, this wordless rebuttal avoids escalation while still drawing a decisive boundary. You instruct others how to treat you not by preaching but by posture, a universal dialect understood across cultures. Upright says, non-negotiable. Physical elevation also intersects with mental visualization. While you stand, envision a vertical beam of light threading from sky through skull to ground. Each breath brightens the beam, dissolving any residue of insult clinging to your aura. This imagery, though invisible, amplifies the sensation of height beyond the anatomical. You anchor into infinite space above, limitless support below. The ocean of consciousness swells beneath your sternum, lifting ribs like sails catching divine wind. Whether or not you embrace metaphysics, the exercise cues the nervous system into expansive mode. You feel simultaneously anchored and uplifted, a paradox that confers grounded grace. The insulter remains outside this luminous column, their words unable to breach the glow. You might even extend a fraction of that light outward, transforming defensive posture into radiant inclusion, hinting that they too could step into elevation instead of crouching in contempt. Finally, remember that standing taller is contagious. When one person straightens with serene confidence, others subconsciously replicate. In meetings or social gatherings, your vertical composure may inspire a whole row of spines to lengthen, atmospherically shifting collective demeanor from tense to empowered. Thus, an insult inadvertently sparks a wave of posture corrections, elevating not only you but the group dynamic. You become a quiet catalyst, alchemizing negativity into taller ceilings of interaction. And long after the encounter ends, someone might recall how they instinctively sat up straighter around you, feeling unexpectedly capable. That ripple effect is leadership in its subtlest form. By simply standing taller, literally, you raise the room. Words are living currents. Once released, they surge outward, shaping landscapes you may never see again. When someone wounds you with contempt, your first impulse may be to hurl venom back, to lance the pain by inflicting equal harm. Yet poison, however justified it feels, infects the hand that throws it before it ever reaches its mark. Choose instead to lace your response with purpose, medicine refined from principle, clarity, and conviction. Take a breath so deep it brushes the bottom of your lungs, letting hurt settle like silt while resolve rises like clear water above it. Then speak only if your words can irrigate growth, either in the heart of the offender, in the ears of those listening, or in the corridors of your own conscience. The difference is seismic. Poison eclipses possibility, purpose invites it. You are not just winning this moment, you are tilling tomorrow's soil. Purpose begins with intention, the hidden script scrolling beneath every syllable. Before replying, interrogate that script. Am I trying to punish or to illuminate? To elevate dialogue or to bury it? The answer determines whether your language becomes torchlight or wildfire. Holding purpose means tethering emotion to value, the way a kite string steadies wild wind. You might be furious, and fury can fuel courage, but only if hitched to a noble destination. Picture a lighthouse. Its brilliant beam comes from fire contained within glass, focused into direction. Your anger, placed inside the lens of purpose, can guide ships away from rocks instead of setting the harbor ablaze. So let each phrase emerge after passing through this prism. Does it safeguard dignity? Mine, theirs, the bystanders. If not, swallow it. Silence sometimes is the loudest form of mercy. Purposeful response reframes attack as opportunity. Consider the insult a flare exposing unseen terrain, a weakness in your boundaries, a miscommunication in your work, or simply another's unhealed wound. By acknowledging the flare without cursing its brightness, you gather information vital for growth. You might say calmly, "It sounds like you're upset with my approach. Help me understand where I missed the mark." Instantly, the conversation shifts from accusation to exploration. Instead of fencing with egos, you're mining for truth. And if truth surfaces that you did overlook a detail, you own it, reinforce the bridge, and move forward stronger. If no truth appears, your purposeful demeanor still showcases maturity, leaving the aggressor isolated in petty theatrics. Responding with purpose also safeguards your narrative. An insult often carries a covert offer. Adopt my definition of you, let my judgment rewrite your story. Refusing that offer isn't enough. You must author your own line in its place. Purposeful words do just that. You might answer, "I hear your perspective, but I measure myself by consistent effort and respect, and I'm committed to both right now." Notice you neither mirror their hostility nor beg for approval. You simply plant a flag on your authentic hilltop, visible to all. That clarity becomes a compass for anyone confused by conflicting voices. It reminds observers and yourself whose opinion counts when night falls quiet. Purpose speaks the language of brevity. Poison rambles, stacking accusations, hoping one will pierce. Purpose selects each word like an artisan chooses stones for a temple path, deliberate, sturdy, minimal. A concise reply, "Your comment is hurtful and unhelpful. Let's focus on solutions." Lands with unmistakable gravity. Brevity forces your listener to confront the essence without distraction, much like a judge's gavel cutting through courtroom murmur. Moreover, short, purposeful statements conserve your mental currency. You exit the exchange solvent, ready to invest attention elsewhere. Wasting paragraphs on someone committed to misunderstanding is like pouring water into a sieve. Purposeful brevity seals the holes. Purpose respects timing as much as tone. There are moments when the wisest reply is postponed, delivered after reflection instead of reflex. You might say, I need a moment to consider your words. Let's revisit this conversation at 3. That sentence, anchored in intention, does double duty. It cools the immediate fire and signals that engagement will occur on grounds of thoughtfulness, not chaos. During the interlude, you gather data, consult mentors, or simply let emotions metabolize. When you return, your purpose is distilled, no longer clouded by adrenaline. The aggressor now faces someone fortified by clarity, not someone still bleeding in the arena. Purposeful response often incorporates empathy, the quiet titan of communication. Recognize that the insult emerges from a specific vantage point. Fear of irrelevance, pressure from unseen sources, echoes of past neglect. You don't excuse the behavior, but you might reflect, it sounds like you're under a lot of strain. I'd like to understand how we got here. Such recognition acts as a pressure valve, sometimes allowing hostility to hiss out harmlessly. Empathy is not capitulation, it's strategy. By addressing the hidden wound, you neutralize the weapon. Armed with empathy, you turn a duel into a dialogue, a clash into a clinic on humanity. Purpose aligns with boundaries that are firm yet flexible. Imagine your response as a velvet rope outside a theater, soft to the touch but unequivocal in function. You might declare, I value respectful discussion. If that's not possible, I will end this conversation now. No raised voice, no character assassination, just a clear standard paired with a clear consequence. Should the offender persist, you walk away, proving your boundary is operational hardware, not decorative intention. Consistency here trains others on how to approach you, like signage that prevents future collisions. A purposeful boundary doesn't just stop harm, it teaches respect. When you respond with purpose, you create ripple effects beyond the immediate moment. Witnesses see conflict handled with grace and adopt similar protocols in their own storms. Children, interns, friends, anyone watching, learn that power need not roar to be undeniable. You become a living blueprint for constructive confrontation. Even the insulter, later in quieter rooms, may replay your composed stance and find within it a mirror reflecting their untempered anger. That reflection can seed change long after voices fade. Thus, your purposeful response evolves into silent mentorship, echoing where you'll never walk. Finally, remember that purpose feeds resilience. Each time you answer hostility with integrity, you strengthen the neural pathways of self-command. The brain notes, we faced heat and did not melt. We forged tool, not weapon. Over years, this practice results in a character that cannot be corroded by casual cruelty. Your reputation becomes armor woven from countless threads of purpose. And inside that armor, the person you wake up as each morning stands a little taller, breathes a little deeper, knowing that no matter how vicious the day's voices, your reply will not be poison. It will be seed. Planted in fertile ground, destined to sprout something better than the hurt that tried to bury you. When someone strikes with venom, the sting can feel sharp, electric, like a jolt straight to the soul. It's a reflex to recoil, to shield the heart, to suppress the urge to retaliate. But within that sting lies something far more potent than pain: energy. Unseen, unacknowledged by many, that moment of hurt contains an unspent fuel, a spark waiting for the right ignition. The question isn't whether you'll feel the sting, you will. The question is whether you will let that sting fester as a wound or transform it into something powerful, something that propels you forward. When you feel that burn, don't just endure it, use it, harness it. The world doesn't need more fuel spent on rage or regret. It needs fuel spent on progress, on purpose. Transform the sting into fuel and watch how far you can go. Transformation begins with perception. That aha moment when someone insults you, belittles you, or tries to wound you, it's a signal, not an end. It's a reminder that you have something worth defending, something valuable within you that someone else feels threatened by. Take a second to shift your lens. Instead of seeing this as an assault on your worth, recognize it for what it truly is. A manifestation of their fear, their insecurity, their inability to process what you represent. Their words say more about their limitations than they ever will about you. That realization alone can begin the alchemy that turns pain into power. By seeing the sting as fuel, you refuse to absorb the venom as truth. You understand it's just a moment, an opportunity to prove that their words can't hold you back unless you let them. This shift in perspective doesn't come naturally, it takes practice. It takes mental toughness to turn what's meant to break you into something that strengthens you. But the more you do it, the more you train your mind to embrace discomfort as a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. Every insult, every harsh word becomes a challenge rather than a wound. You begin to see those moments not as betrayals, but as invitations to grow, to expand. It's in those uncomfortable, challenging moments where true strength is forged. The sting becomes the furnace, and you are the steel being tempered, refined, made unbreakable. When you accept that the sting is a form of energy, you can begin to channel it into something that aligns with your greater purpose. There's a fire inside you that's waiting to be lit, and the pain you feel from an insult can be the match that strikes it. Rather than letting the words roll around in your mind, poisoning your thoughts, use them to fuel your drive. Take that energy and pour it into action. Whether it's the decision to push harder in your work, the resolve to make better decisions, or simply the strength to carry on in the face of adversity, turn that negative force into a positive one. Pain can either keep you stagnant or move you forward. The choice is yours. People often underestimate the power of turning negative energy into motivation. When you transform a sting into fuel, you shift the balance of power. Instead of feeling helpless or defeated, you realize that the power was within you all along. It was just waiting for the right moment to surface. Use the energy of those difficult moments to propel you toward your goals. Let the sting remind you of your resilience, your ability to adapt, your ability to turn adversity into strength. Every negative interaction becomes a chance to prove to yourself and to the world that you are more than capable of overcoming anything that comes your way. It's not the external forces that determine your future, it's your response to them. Another aspect of transforming the sting into fuel is understanding that it doesn't have to be a solitary process. When others attempt to bring you down, the best way to respond is to raise others up. Turn your frustration into compassion and let the energy that could be wasted on bitterness and anger be redirected into lifting someone else. Your journey isn't just about you. It's about the people you can impact along the way. So instead of allowing the sting to shrink you, use it to elevate others. It creates a ripple effect of positivity, shifting the dynamics of every interaction. In doing so, you gain more than just personal growth. You gain a deeper connection with those around you. There's a subtle yet profound power in using the sting as fuel. When you respond with grace instead of anger, when you continue to pursue your goals with even more vigor after being knocked down, you send a message to everyone who sees you. You cannot be easily swayed. You cannot be broken. They might try to sting you, but you'll just keep moving forward. And in the process, you become an example to others of how resilience isn't a trait you're born with. It's a muscle you build, one painful experience at a time. The more you practice turning the sting into fuel, the stronger that muscle becomes. Eventually, what once would have knocked you down becomes the very thing that drives you. You also start to notice that the sting loses its power over time. At first, every insult may feel like a dagger, each criticism like a chisel. But the more you practice transformation, the less impact these words have on you. You grow immune to the toxic energy others try to inject into your life. You learn that no one can take your peace unless you allow them to. The sting becomes a tool, a reminder that you've mastered the art of resilience. It no longer holds you hostage because you found a way to use it as propulsion. You'll reach a point where you hear an insult, feel the sting for a brief moment, and then quickly refocus that energy onto something productive. The most powerful aspect of transforming the sting into fuel is that it becomes an intrinsic part of your character. It no longer feels like something you have to consciously remind yourself to do. It becomes instinct. Like breathing, it becomes second nature. You've trained yourself to process pain differently. The sting no longer defines you, it sharpens you, hones you, makes you more effective. It forces you to think bigger, act bolder, and rise higher than ever before. It's no longer just about surviving, it's about thriving in the face of adversity, using the negative energy of others to fuel your own climb. And ultimately, you begin to realize something deeply profound. The sting was never truly about you. It was about them. Their words, their venom, their limitations were simply a reflection of their inner turmoil. You are the one who rises above it. You are the one who chooses how to respond. You are the one who decides whether to let it consume you or to use it as the wind beneath your wings. That realization, that freedom of choice, is the ultimate fuel. It is the engine that powers you forward, no matter the obstacles in your path. When faced with an insult or criticism, it's easy to feel like the world is against us, that the sting of someone else's words will define our worth. But my friends, that sting is not a curse, it's an opportunity. It's a powerful moment, a turning point where you have the chance to decide how you will respond. You can let it break you, or you can let it fuel you. You can choose to hold on to the pain, to let it rot inside of you, or you can turn it into the very energy that drives you to greater heights. Remember, the sting only has power over you if you allow it to. When you feel the burn of someone's words, don't react in anger or frustration. Instead, pause, reflect. Transform that energy into fuel for your progress. See that hurt not as an attack on your worth, but as a reflection of someone else's struggle. In that moment, you have the chance to be greater than the pain, to rise above the negativity and let it propel you forward toward your dreams. By shifting your perspective, you can take that sting and channel it into something constructive. You can turn frustration into focus, disappointment into determination, and anger into ambition. It's all about harnessing that raw energy and using it as the force that pushes you to work harder, think clearer, and move forward with even more purpose. When you make this choice, you'll discover a strength inside you that is unshakable, a resilience that no criticism can touch. And as you transform the sting into fuel, you'll see it not only changes you, but those around you. By responding with grace, by choosing to rise above, you become an example to others. You show them that insults don't define you, and they don't have to define them either. Your strength and resilience become contagious, inspiring others to face their own challenges with the same courage and conviction. Each time you face criticism, you gain something more valuable than just a lesson. You gain the power to direct your own course. You begin to realize that no matter what others throw at you, you are in control of your journey. The sting is merely a momentary challenge, but your response to it is what defines the direction of your life. So the next time someone tries to tear you down, remember this: the sting is not the end.